Hi, this is Tony from Great Lake Swimmers, and you're watching OneMoreTune.ie. Well, the name Great Lake Swimmers is originally comes from a song that I wrote, and I always thought that it'd be a good band name. So I decided that I would use the name Great Lake Swimmers as a sort of a vehicle for my songwriting. And it basically started out as a solo project, and our first record is basically a solo record with a few friends helping out on it. And over time we started to play as a band, and I started to cross paths with people that were sort of like-minded, and we pulled a band together, and then after a couple years Great Lake Swimmers started to become a band. But it seems that we always have a rotating cast of characters, and the lineup changes quite often, and between tours and between records. So at the center is basically, you know, a songwriting project. Well, I think that the themes that have been explored over the course of the 4 albums have been kind of similar. I think that all of the albums each album has been an extension of the last album, and I think that over time it's gone from being very sparse to a little bit fuller, with a little bit more of a band arrangement on it. But I think that ideas of spirituality, and especially spirituality in nature and the wilderness, have been important themes throughout the records, and sort of continue to be too. And also, you know, there's been a further exploration of a sort of tension between the urban and natural worlds. And I don't know, it's sort of developed into more of a band feel, more of a band arrangement, you know, from quieter getting up to more, you know, moving out into more, not necessarily elaborate arrangements, but I really strive to make the arrangements sort of weightless, you know, despite the instrumentation. And I try very hard not to have any superfluous instrumentation, that it all sort of makes sense and still has a very airy and light feel to it. But I would say the biggest difference from the beginning till now is that there's more creative involvement with the rest of the members of it, the rest of the musicians. The title "Lost Channels" of the last record comes from a region in the Thousand Islands where we recorded the record. We recorded it in some interesting acoustic spaces in amongst these islands, where Lake Ontario spills out into the St. Lawrence River, roughly, if you know where that is. There's thousands of islands in this river, and most of them have buildings on them, and some of them are very interesting buildings. There's also a passage of water between them at one point that's called the Lost Channel. And when we were there, there's a photographer and a storyteller named Ian Corristine who lives there, and he told us this story about these mysterious disappearances of ships in the late 1700s. And to me, it was just a way to sort of reference the area, and it sort of sparked a kind of the idea of the mythology of that area in us. And that story was very important to us because it represents a sort of the larger picture of there's thousands of stories in this place, you know, there's thousands of stories that are like that, and that's just one of them. And I think this was our way of sort of referencing the place where we made the record. For this recent record, we have asked an artist named Parker Saltillo, who's from Toronto, and to create the album artwork. And she was on board pretty much from the beginning when we started making demos. We had lots of different ideas for it, but in the end we decided to use the palm prints on the front cover. And basically it came about by spending an evening drinking a bottle of wine and making hundreds of palm prints and different fingerprints and handprints using Indian ink on paper. And we sort of picked the best ones, and we used that for the album artwork and also for the little singles and everything else that have come out as well. So it's kind of a theme. I think it maybe centers around the first song on the album, which is called Palmistry, was kind of the spark for that idea. And but it's basically just photographs of palm prints using ink and paper. Well, it's really great to be nominated for the Canadian Folk Music Awards. I think it's a relatively new award, but it's always an honor to be recognized for all the work that you're doing, and I feel that we've really put the work into what we're doing, and have toured a lot, and have really made an effort to reach people. And with the Canadian Folk Music Awards, it's nice that we are kind of included in that category, because I think there's kind of like a folk renaissance happening, in some ways, and it's nice to be a part of that in Canada. And also, if I had to give the award to someone in that category that we're nominated for, I'd probably choose Joel Plaskett, who's a songwriter from the east coast of Canada. But there's a lot of good bands and good artists that are nominated for that award, so it's going to be a hard competition.